Yeah, I don't think I'd want to.
So anyway, he knew where there was a cattle guard that was all torn up and busted, and I went and got all over 3 or 4 pieces of the railroad railing.
Did you?
But it was small rail, and 3 feet of it, in the railroad talk, 3 feet of it is how they measure and talk about the rail. The new rail on the new railroad is about this high.
Oh.
So 3 feet of it is 200-pound rail.
Oh, wow.
The rail they used up here in 3 feet was only this big, and it was a 130-pound rail. Very small rail.
Big difference. Huh.
And in the Santa Fe book, it has something I didn't know. They had so much oak around here, the red oak, that they didn't use any tie plates. That's the plate that goes down on the tie where the rail sits on top of it.
Okay.
And they run the spikes through. They just spiked the rail to the wood.
Really?
Which was very, very dangerous for the railroad crews and stuff. There were no tie plates. So Mr. Murphy saved a lot of money there.
Mr.
Clicked
Murphy
on
had
the
a lot
tie
of
plates.
self-interest, I think. So your history up here, when you were younger, actually you had a lot of time at Horse Thief. I take it you spent time out there with Forest Service. When you were with the Forest Service, you spent a lot of time at Horse Thief also. So could you tell us what was Horse Thief like at that time?
Well, I remember Horse Thief because we used to rent one of the cabins so that my family could go deer hunting up here. And we went deer hunting all the time because my dad didn't have enough seniority to keep a job on the railroad when the crops quit. So when all the crops quit in Phoenix, my dad used to get laid off for 2 or 3 months where he couldn't work. There was no railroad jobs, so I actually was raised on Bradshaw Mountain venison, my whole family, because we used to come over here and get 5 or 6 deer all the time. And we butchered them and processed them ourselves, and that's the meat we had to eat when my dad was cut off the railroad.
Okay.
And then my grandpa was still working because he had enough seniority to stay on a passenger job or a freight job, and he would always bring us 100 pounds of potatoes, 100 pounds of onions, 100 pounds of carrots. So that's what I was raised on for many years when my dad used to get cut off the railroad.
Okay.
So how many brothers did you have?
I have 2 brothers. Brother Chuck is 2 years younger. He's in Atlanta, and he's who helped me build the cabin up there. And then my other brother Bill is still up there. He's 5 years younger.
So 3 boys.
3 boys. And we were raised my dad was an ex-combat Marine in the Pacific almost during the entire war, and a Marine Corps sniper. Of course, he was raised in these mountains, and he was in the Marine Corps when he was 15 years old.
Wow.
And so not many deer got away. Not many deer got away. So we used to stay at Horse Thief in a cabin, and my grandma and little kids and I hiked all around there. The playground was all in good shape with a teeter-totter and a merry-go-round and the tennis courts, and go to the lake and go fishing and swimming, and the Adirondacks and everything over there was built, by the CCC, and always were good friends with the people that ran the store and everything. So I have several really good memories of Horse Thief. And the wells, going down and getting the water and carrying it up to all the cabins we stayed with are all gone now.
Right.
All
Right.
gone. They're all gone. They were above the playground up there
Were
on
they?
that part.
Do you have photographs, old photographs of when you were a kid at Horse Thief?
Somewhere.
That would be good to
If
To
we ever
see
could get
those,
a copy.
I would love a copy of those for us. That would be great.
Yes.
And the most memorable memory is my grandma, who was a Texas cowgirl, I tell you. She made us big popcorn balls with the white caramel syrup, and we set the popcorn balls out on the edge of the porch so they could get hard after we poured the hot caramel syrup on it. So we all took a nap and got up, and all there was a trail of popcorn going off into the woods. The squirrels came up
Did they
and rolled
really?
those popcorn balls away. So that was a lot of fun.
I bet it was. So you were out there when it was at its heyday out there. A lot of people from Phoenix would come up
Yeah.
and spend their summers there, and
Well, when I worked in the Forest Service before I went to Vietnam, I would go to all the dances at the community center,
you did.
and I had a girlfriend over there, and anyway, it was very nice. So,
It's kind of sad that it's not there anymore.
well, the Forest Service could really do something nice with it.
That they could.
And one of my Forest Service projects when I got back from Vietnam, I had nine Apache Indians that were neighborhood youth corps. And the Indians bought them a truck, and they stayed over there in the cabin, and they put me in charge of them. And we built the evacuation area there, cleared it, and then we built most of the fence around the lake.
Did you really?
Yeah, so,
They used to put a lot of care into that place.
but don't get me started on the Forest Service.
No, I
used-
won't.
I used to love it and wanted to be in the Forest Service, but now, since it was taken over by, I don't know, I won't use any bad words, but anyway, they would rather see it burn so they could get 3 or 4 head more cattle per 100 acre.
Okay. Yeah. It's sad. It's very sad what's become of this area, this whole area, with that.
Well, we had 17 lightning fires here one time when Bert Shuley was the ranger, and we used to go into the bar and recruit people, and my favorite person to go to the fires was Daryl Nicholas down at Cleater.
Oh, okay.
Daryl and Isophine had the store and made the pies there,
Oh,
and Daryl had a little sawmill, and
I didn't
Daryl
know them. Yeah.
Daryl Nicholas and I, we'd always go to the fires together.
Did you?
And of course, since we knew the country, we always got the lightning snags and held cold. Like all the way down to the fire
That
out
was a
on that
bad
little
spot.
mountain down there.
So how many years did you spend with Forest Service?
5 summers.
5 summers with them. Okay. And
And my last summer, they made me the horse thief recreation officer over there. So I had to take care of the bathrooms and collect the Golden Eagle fees in the campground and put out all the stupid campfires. And
nice place to work in the summer.
it was really a nice place to work in the summer.
So, what year did your grandparents buy their property here?
I believe he bought it from the Van Tilburgs in 1923
23. And
because they weren't up on their taxes and he had the money and he was an engineer on the railroad making pretty good money.
okay. So did they use it as for farming, or did they farm the land, or
Oh yeah, my grandma had beans, green beans, pumpkins, potatoes, anything out there. And then during the Depression they actually had a stamp mill up there, and they went and high graded a lot of ore from a lot of the dumps around. And Uncle Hayes and my grandpa up there did a lot of mining, milling, and gold. But it's really funny, Grandma's sitting on the back porch with a mortar and a pistol in her gold pan.
oh,
She could pan more gold than they did in all their fancy machinery and everything. We had two 4-inch chipmunk ore crushers up there, and two 5-horse Moors and Canutes and fly engines with the big flywheels on them for power, because they could run all day on a quart of gasoline.
Okay.
Because they fired, and then that big flywheel go around, then they'd fire again and go around, and then it'd go around and fire again. They only went boom, 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 and it'd run all day. That's all the gas they used during the Depression. But my grandma says, you know what, those deer are pretty smart. You can have your green beans out there and you watch them, and it's all fenced and everything, and you're just getting ready to pick all the green beans, and you go out in the morning and the deer are in there and everything's gone.
Oh, that would be awful.
They know exactly when to jump the fence to get the green beans.
They're smart.
Funny.
And as a young boy, I had to carry all the water from the spring. We lived in a little shack built in front of Mr. Towers' barn, and just room enough for a couch and a stove and a table and a chair. And that's what we lived in. And I cut all the wood with my grandma. We'd go rattlesnake hunting all the time because there's all kinds of junk and sheet metal all around. And I cut all the wood and for the wood stove and carried all the water. And it was fun. It was a great boy's life. And Coleman lantern at nighttime, no electricity, and
Not bad. Not bad.
shooting rats off the rafters with the 22s.
Oh, that part I wouldn't like.
Yeah, that part I can do without.
And then Grandma getting up, and the next morning we'd get up with an old sheet and some red tar, and we'd have to patch the holes in the roof in the tin before the rains came. So
That's something. So did your grandparents supply some vegetables and stuff for the miners?
no, that was a false story. They never provided anything. It was the people that had it before us that was what it was finally named Spud Ranch.
Oh, okay, that's where the name came from.
And I think that was before the Tilburgs even had it.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder who had it before them.
Well, I got their names.
Do
They
you?
got the ones that actually were in the mining,
Oh, okay.
in the other.
That would be interesting to know.
But I love Mr. Towers' history, and I gave everything I had on Mr. Towers to Tony, and when Tony was at Horse Thief this last year, and he was really going to work on a really good bibliography from Mr. Towers, George Towers, who was quite a character himself. And the best stories about George is he would go away. He was some kind of mining engineer, very highly educated, and he would work in the Tagger and the Orabelle, and he'd go away for weeks at a time and leave it up there. And then he had his house and his barn and everything. So when he would get his gold, he would go to Prescott and buy a boxcar load of horses. And then when the horses got here, he would take the horses up to Towers Mountain and give them to the Apaches.
Really?
So we always had 20 or 30 Apaches camped there by the spring, and he never worried about anything on his property. Nothing.
I suppose.
He had his own police force right there. And they wanted to make sure. That's why the mountain next to Towers Mountain is called Wild Horse Mountain.
Really?
Because that's where the horses were at. Where the Indians put the horses is over on Wild Horse Mountain.
I did not know that.
A lot of neat history.
Oh, there's so much. There is so much of it.
And Andy, who was in gold panning and really interested in the country, my nephew, the stepson that was up here, he all the mines and work on anything. He ran into an older guy that his grandfather knew, Mr. Towers, and he actually said that Towers gave the Indians some rifles at one time. And that all had to be before 1870, let's see, when did they, 1875, I think, is when General Crook rounded all the Apaches up and took them over to Date Creek.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't think we have a lot of history on George Towers.
George W. Towers. Most
George
people think
W.
it's because the
Towers.
towers are up there, but
Right.
no.
It's after
And the
him.
story there was some prospectors came up from Wickenburg to Castle Hot Springs, and they came up and somebody told them there was a lot of gold in the creek that ran down past the Del Pasco, and one day one of them was going to walk up the top of the mountain, and walked up the top of the mountain, and there was Georgie Towers with all the meadow cleared and
Oh, wow.
the houses and everything.
That meadow was a beautiful place up there.
Yeah.
When you drive
It
by.
is special. What elevation is your house up there?
7,680 feet.
That's quite unique to have a big meadow like that at that elevation and in this rocky, rough